Welcome to another garden vlog, and this is the star fruit. We're looking every day and seeing new little seeds sprout here. Looks like there's 2 there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 either sprouted or starting to push up. Well, it's kind of fun to see the star fruit sprout because they usually just go back to back sprouting versus the avocados, which some may sprout within a few days of each other, some may sprout within a few months of each other. So I can't tell you when the third one is going to sprout. It could be months away. Tiffany Rose is getting ready to open up. I think our white sapote seeds should be here supposedly on Tuesday, but I would hope that they come on Monday. Taking our paper and cardboard out to the pile here where we either burn it or we store it until we use it in the garden or whatever. All of the plastic pieces off of the soy milk containers and orange juice containers or whatever, and we never put things that have a lot of packaging tape on there unless we can clean it up before we dump it. Apparently it upsets people to see us burning cardboard to create like a wood ash for the garden. Just remember, if you don't have a recycling center for cardboard, paper, yada yada, and you just put this in a landfill, all of the density of trash, plastic bags, and everything take away all of the oxygen from everything underneath the top of the pile. This stuff that is easily compostable or usable in some form does not get to compost down because it has no oxygen. One of my uncles used to actually work at one of the dumps before they filled it in, and closed it down. And I would say you'd be surprised at all the cardboard and magazines and paper and all that comes in there. And just imagine years, dozens of years, these dumps, collect this stuff. But then they go higher and higher like a mountain, and they can probably only go so high. So now they have to expand to annex properties or whatever, or close that dump down and create another one because of whether 30% or whatever of that paper and compostable materials, whether it's food or cardboard or something else, wood pieces, they could have been burnt, composted, or used, recycled some other way, and they're having to just contaminate more land areas with trash to, it's just not a good scenario. Don't put your cardboard and paper in the garbage. Don't put things that are recyclable in the garbage. Before you get angry with me about burning or composting cardboard after we've used it 2 or 3 times and recycled it to the maximum of its capabilities, look at what you're doing and look at the alternative. People that practice permaculture are the kings and queens of recycling and using what is available around them. You may see a fallen tree as something that's just bad for your yard, for your aesthetics. We see it as that is soil, that is a raised bed, that is, nutrients for our plants, that is possibly mycorrhizal fungi, and we see that in the oak leaves that people think don't look good, the moisture retention mulch, the tannins or something that helps fight citrus greening in citrus trees. So when some of you may click on our videos and be the type of persons that say, hey, let's get a tree man out here, let's get the chainsaws, let's get rid of this thing that just looks bad, this fallen tree or this tree that's rotted, get it out of our way, move it on somewhere else. When research has shown that material will essentially help you plant and grow stuff like avocados that get this bacterial root rot. And when you have these woods and stuff bringing in all of these beneficial mycorrhizal fungi, if you just want to plant it in the ground and see what happens, it's probably going to die. But with these methods, it has been proven successful, and some of these avocados have endured flooding when they may not have endured that without these aged wood chip beds, that people are planting them with. Into something that's a little less serious. We are winding down for season 2 of the garden vlog here. I don't really suspect any major shebang going out with a big shebang or whatever. But hey, we're just going to finish the season. And it's unfortunate that I believe that we're not going to be able to really show you the sprouting if we have successes, or how many of the white sapote. We probably won't be able to show you the loquat successes in season 2, or the grafting successes or failures of the citrus trees we did yesterday. It's just we don't have time before this stuff ends. But as I said before, we may have to do some video and in between, or just do a big update, on the beginning of season 3. And I'm not sure when season 3 is going to start. Hopefully not a huge break between season 2 and season 3. But we need to be refreshed. We need to be reinvigorated. We got to build some beds for those 2 pear trees we have, and see what else is going on. We definitely are looking for scion wood and maybe some other pomegranates and maybe some other figs if they come along, somewhere between the end of season 2 and the beginning or middle of season 3. One thing we have not done is christen this bed. I mean, a banana circle isn't really like a raised bed, but then again, it is. We always christen it with our guinea pig bedding, new beds. But we'll do that before this season ends. Check out this little tomato here. This survived the summer in all these weeds, I guess. So it sort of has a second flush of growth. I think there's almost like 2 vines. One here that I just wrapped around this papaya tree. And I think there's one somewhere else. I'm surprised it survived. And now it has 1 single fruit. Yesterday we had just a few little these blue or purple flowers on this lemon verbena, but now they're getting flowers everywhere. Check this out. Some of those beauty berries are getting new leaves on them that we put cuttings out for. That's a good sign that we're possible have some roots. As we are winding down for season 2 here, I'm just wondering if we're going to have any definitive answers by season 3 or the end of season 3 or season 4, regarding, these raised beds and how we're doing things, and if they're going to be successful. Does it show enough promise for... Oh my gosh. Do you hear that? As I was trying to say before I was rudely interrupted, does it show promise? Does especially this first bed we created, look at how lush and green it is. Yes, it looks like a dead desert, before we get all this growth coming out. But look at it. Does this show enough promise that you may want to do something like this? Does it inspire you? Not all the beds are like this. This is the largest one. This is the first one. This is the one I put the most time and effort into. The other ones are way, way smaller. Some of the other beds did not have time to mature. We sort of just planted them out either immediately or just a few weeks after starting them. And even though there are like tons and tons of sweet potatoes here, vines at least, that look so amazing, I'm not sure how many tubers are actually big. There's still some little tiny ones in there. So I'm not sure this method, unless you're planting only sweet potatoes in the bed and root crops, where you can loosen that soil like every season right before you replant is a good idea, because you don't want to uproot your papayas, your yumis, probably your pineapples, avocados, and other stuff in here. You don't want to disturb the roots of them or the loquats or anything like that. So maybe if it was a dedicated bed where you could just make sure everything didn't get dense at the end of the season. Over time, everything will be denser, I believe. So you got to keep it fluffed up, I think, to make sure those tubers have it easy to expand, in soft dirt or sand or whatever. So it's possible that making a dedicated bed for sweet potatoes would be a more viable option than to do a mixed bed like this one is. I think in the last video I talked about possible future experiments or ideas that never came to fruition, and I also talked about failed experiments like the greenhouse. But what's got me excited is thinking about the potential to do those mangoes. Whether or not we do rabbits, that was an idea that everybody was on board for like a day or two, and then it kind of fizzled out. And Natalie said, hey, we don't need rabbits. So we went from getting a couple medium-sized rabbits to produce poop to Natalie wanting a big giant pet, like a Flemish giant cross or something, to no, we don't need them. I've done enough research to realize the rabbit tractor idea isn't good. Most people don't have successes with them. Most of them have a high failure or death rate in the rabbits. Just get sick from something in the ground, and with this being a wet and humid area, this is not a good idea. Natalie won't eat rabbits. She will refuse to have them butchered. I mean, I'm not saying I would want to do that. I've eaten plenty of rabbit as a kid because my dad had a rabbitry or whatever, at least in 2 different instances. And he raised New Zealand whites and sold the rabbits and stuff like that for meat. So we've eaten plenty of fried rabbit. Well, just for a change, I guess we really don't have much to do today, on this vlog. We're, like I said, we're winding down. I don't see anything, unless something surprises me. Nothing exciting going on. The Bordeaux fig is starting to look a little bit better. It's taken a really long time to kind of perk up a little bit, but it finally has a few perked up leaves. So one of the things we haven't really talked about on this channel at all, besides just mentioning it, is root knot nematodes, that figs get, mulberries get, and I just found out recently that even pomegranates get. A lot of times they're associated with sandy soil. I'm not sure how bad they are in like a swamp muck or bordering on that swamp acidic muck soil like we have. There are beneficial nematodes, and then there are the parasitic plant nematodes that live only on live material, and they inject something in the roots. They make these little ugly nodules in them, and I guess the plants can't get oxygen or something over time, and a lot of times they just end up dying. While the good nematodes, what are they called, like free living nematodes, don't require that live plant to eat. They may feed on some of the decaying, organic material, and I guess some nematodes actually eat parasites as well, or kill them off, from what I've read. But one good thing about the good ones is that they also carry mycorrhizal fungi in their bodies, and somehow they spread it, or help spread that beneficial fungi to plants. So I guess there are a few ways to combat nematodes. Maybe planting stuff at a certain season where, like when you do your annual gardens, where they're more dormant, and harvesting, when there isn't a whole lot of root knot nematode damage on the roots. And there's something called solarization, which is probably more bad than good because it probably destroys a lot of your good bacteria and everything. Putting a clear plastic over a big, large area, having the sun hit it for several days or weeks or whatever, and it acts like an oven and it roasts everything, including the bad and the good. Another method is actually introducing, buying these nematodes that feed off of parasitic nematodes and other pests, grubs, and all kinds of stuff. But it seems like that really isn't the best way. I don't know how much this stuff costs, but I'm sure it costs a lot to get a bunch of these good nematodes. Just put a compost bin out. Have composted and active compost. That actually brings in a big portion of your beneficial nematodes. So when you work the soil, put some of that compost around in the root hole, where the roots are, and then spread it around the dirt and maybe on the top, and then put some mulch or aged wood chips on top, and there you go. And you probably do have to kind of keep adding some good compost and stuff, and maybe aged wood chips over time to try to balance out the good with the bad, so that if there are bad ones there, you're keeping a healthy amount of good nematodes to combat those parasites. That definitely has me wondering if, in the past when I planted out figs and pomegranates and wondered why they did not make it, some of them died within a year, some of them 2, 3, 4 years, they just struggled and died. If I had my magic soil and my active compost and, did mulching and everything like I do now, maybe I could have prevented that, but I don't know if that's what caused, the death of these plants. But you might as well do some preventative measures just to make sure that root knot nematodes aren't going to destroy, what you plant in the ground. Now, what I don't know is how active those beneficial nematodes would be in finished compost that you just buy in the garden supply center. You could probably, even if you don't have the room or whatever, the materials to do a huge compost bin, what's to stop you from mixing finished compost with maybe something from a smaller compost bin? And like I said, aged wood chips, leaves, whatever, mix it all together, create you a nice little place for those nematodes to thrive. I think I was even reading that these beneficial nematodes will actually combat flea larvae. You could get something as small as this. This is something sold as a composter. Kind of looks like a big planter box. It probably has just a lot more UV protection so that when you have it outside in the sun for years, it doesn't just crumble and fall apart. You can get one of those tumblers that you roll so it aerates it over time, as long as, a lot of people complain about them and say they stink, and, you got to get the right balance, I guess, with them of green and brown materials and stuff. And if you put something that's going to be like milk or eggs or something dairy that's going to spoil, you got to make sure to balance it out with way more carbon to, I guess, take care of those odors and stuff. People do like a cage or something, where you put all your leaves in a little cage and then it goes down over time. You could just put it out on, an old piece of plywood or OSB or just on the ground. If you got a big pile of compost, just put it on the ground if you have to, if you have no other methods. I use kiddie pools, and then we've also used big old giant, 10, 12, 15-foot swimming pools, as a frame around, for cardboard, leaves, limbs, whatever. So, they make it sound difficult on one end of the spectrum and easy on the other. If it is as simple as doing that compost, then maybe that is the easiest and best method to do it. And if you don't have enough room or a way to get a yard or multiple yards of, wood chips or whatever, don't have the money to pay somebody to deliver it, just buy a bag here and there, throw it out somewhere, against a tree or something in your backyard. Wait a year or two for it to age and start to break down. That's going to be you're going to have fungal roots and all kinds of stuff growing in that stuff within 2 years. A lot of it's going to be breaking down in the soil already, and just mulch that area with that stuff, after you put a little bit of compost in the ground. Usually when I do the magic soil and the compost and all that, I'm trying to give the plants a nutrient boost and a good start in the ground. But now that I'm more aware of these nematode issues, I'll be sure to do that, maybe in a larger capacity or something like that. Make sure to do it with all of them. Make sure I have compost. Make sure I have something that I can work with and to try to ensure, because I am doing more fig experiments. I am doing more pomegranate experiments, possibly some more mulberry experiments. And I have had several mulberries just die for what seems to be no reason. Pakistan on its own roots. I had a Pakistan that was grafted. I had Kokuso 2 times, I think, grafted, and they both died. Don't know what the rootstock was that they grafted them on. I think I had an Illinois everbearing on its own roots, and it died. Illinois everbearing has had some trials in the root knot nematode thing where it wasn't as affected as much, but maybe it didn't have enough trials, if that were the case, if that was what caused the problems. This is a good reason to have your plants, anything that's easily rootable, keep them in pots, grow them out a little bit, take cuttings from them, use those cuttings to put in the ground to experiment with, and to ensure you have that mother plant you can, as a backup, that you can take more cuttings from. And maybe certain cultivars or certain types just will be prone to failure. Maybe you need to graft them onto rootstock that grows in your area. So I think I'm going to end this garden vlog for today. Sorry we didn't put anything in the ground, but at least we talked about one major kind of issue that a lot of people have is root knot nematodes. Take care, guys.